You're listening to the voices of the Occultinarium. Enter our circle and listen to what stirs.
Hello, good night, and welcome to the Occultinarium. We are the voices of the Occultinarium, and tonight's hosts are
Luigi,
Adriana,
Amelie?
Lynn. Tonight's episode, we wanted to talk about ghosts and apparitions. So we wanted to share a little bit of our own beliefs, what we think about it, what we think they are, and before diving into some cultural aspects of ghosts, maybe a little bit of science, and share some ghost stories at the end. As usual, also, if you like what you're hearing, just push the like button, comment, subscribe, and if you want to support what we're doing, you can also buy us a coffee. Check out the link tree below. Thanks. All right, let's dive in. What are ghosts, guys? Let's say, do you guys all believe in ghosts? We can start there. So let's see, Luigi, what is
I
this
believe.
You believe!
I believe.
I believe! I want to believe.
I believe.
If I can fly. There we go. Adriana, what about you?
to be honest with you, I think that there are so many things that culturally or something like that we cannot explain. And so when we don't understand something, we deny the existence of things. But I think I'm open-minded. I think that everything exists. If we believe that exists, is because there is place in reality. My personal opinion, really, I'm open-minded.
Yeah, open to everything, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Amelie, do you have any strong opinions?
Strong opinions. Yes,
Yeah.
they do exist. Yeah, it would be very strange if they didn't, I think. Well, I guess there's a lot of people that would say the opposite. But yeah, I definitely believe that they do exist. And obviously everything else we can discuss, but yeah, I do believe that they do exist.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Are you,
So,
Lynn?
well, I'm a skeptic, mysticist, animist at heart. So I believe that everything can exist. Am I open to it? And I'm like, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And some things, it's very difficult for me to not believe in something that I interact with on a daily basis, right? So for my reality. For things like that, obviously, I'm a bit more, yes, in my reality exists. But I'm also quite open to the idea that lots of realities exist at the same time. And maybe not in all of them, all these beings exist. So I am open to it. As for ghosts, it's like, when we say ghosts, like what do you guys define as a ghost? Like the spooky boohoo with like, the white stuff and the big black eyes like we have as the children? Do we think people that have died and somehow reappear as themselves? Or echoes? Or what do you guys think ghosts are? Luigi. We'll just go the round. Same round.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I think a lot of things that we explore, experience, and believe in sometimes has gained an influence from the culture and the media of the time. You know what I mean? Because I guess what is a ghost? Literally, in the etymology of the word, what's a ghost? But I think, I guess, when I hear the word ghost, I easily associate ghost with spirit. Just a personal bit. It could be wrong, it could be right, who knows? But I don't fully differentiate between them. I guess I experience ghost as a non-earthly presence, substance, entity. It's basically ethereal, so therefore, I guess, spiritual. It could be, the people that have passed and they've gone to the other world, they've gone beyond, and somehow they have some contact or some influence on this plane still. I'm not entirely fixated on this is the way that it is. Similar to all of you, suppose. I take it in turns, I explore, and I'm open to whatever possibility. But for a summary, so that I don't prolong the explanation too much, it's purely something that is ethereal versus something that is physical, and therefore it can only be perceived, sometimes possibly even interacted with, via non-conventional means. because you would interact. I would interact with you, through Zoom, but through communication, through physical contact, and that's not necessarily the same way that I can interact, depending on the situation, with a ghost, allegedly. So that's
So
my
for
version.
you, it's more like you don't necessarily differentiate between something that from like a dead person's spirit and any kind of spirit in that sense. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, it's a belief and a thought that it's evolving as I learn more about the field and as I understand myself and my experience with the world better, on a day-to-day basis. But right now, I suppose because I work a lot with the principle of of the Kabbalists, of the tarot, and of the as above, so below. So in a way, all is one. So there is less differentiation on my part, but that's by no means me saying that there shouldn't be any differentiation. There definitely can be. I think it's just
Just
easier in my life right now
yeah,
not to
just
differentiate as much.
yeah, out of curiosity, because language I think has a lot to say about definitions or how we define things. What would be the term like in Italian? If you
Oh, yeah.
like, is there a difference? Like, what is a ghost when you think like ghost story or something? What is ghost in Italian, and what would you use as
Fantasma.
spirit? Fantasma, right? And what do you say as spirit?
Spirito.
So that okay, so that's the language distinction.
Yeah. But it's interesting because obviously there's the word in English ghost and in
Yeah,
Italian fantasma. But in English, you also have the word phantom,
fantastic.
which is
Yeah,
similar to
yeah,
fantasma. So that's an
fantasma.
interesting
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
to reflect on.
Definitely. Let's maybe circle back to that. Adriana, what about you?
Well,
How do you define, if you define at all?
it is difficult to me. It's more like a presence. I know that, as Luigi say, culturally speaking, we have an influence and a background. We grow up with stories of ghosts, But ghosts are also, they're not only human, they can be animals as well. They can be pets. They can be like symbolic beings or, animals, create animals. So when we stop the definition of a ghost, because we have visions, have presence, particularly if you are a medium. I did a course of mediumship as well. Obviously, you connect with entities, So entities can be human. Is that souls that didn't transition properly? That beings that tied to places or memories or ritual, or someone that has unresolved human experiences or, like very sudden or violent deaths or very strong emotions, like can the energy of an emotion transcend the void in like a different dimensions or multi-universes? We feel the presence is because the energy, the connection was so strong that we can have glimpses of a multiverse. I don't know. I personally don't know, but it seems culturally we're associating ghosts as like unfinished business, like someone who didn't transcend or didn't pass to a peaceful or cross the tunnel or whatever you wanted to call it to the light, that need the assistance or come to assist us, in order to create some sort of ritual or to assist the person to give them peace or, help them to cross over. That it can be a sort of ghost, but we have the relative ghost that when someone passes over, we love them so much that we want to feel the presence of our parents or ancestors or children. So where do we stop the definition of a ghost? How can we define exactly what they are? So to me, I think is just a term like an umbrella that cover a lot of things. But are the existence of these ghosts more a need for the living, for us to have closure, psychologically help us to feel that when something unfair or unjust happened to someone, we can resolve it, we can help them even they are not here anymore. So it can be everything. As I say, they can be animals, they can be beings, holy beings, they can be ghostly presence, they are positive, they are here to assist us, like guardian angels or an ancestor who died, or sometimes the grandfather or grandmother, they still with us to support us and to help us. Or there are others that they are in need for us to help them to pass over. So it's like another universe, like a whole, another society. It's like having a family member, the crazy uncle or the good godmother, So I don't know. It's like everyone has a personality and a reason to exist. So to me, it's still very vast. It's a big umbrella, as in español, es fantasmas o apariciones o espíritus. So there is a little different terms that they can differ a little bit. There's nuance, but it's not something precise, a concise, like a definition that you can pinpoint.
What about you, Amelie?
It's always very difficult to explain what you think it is. I definitely think that if no ghosts exist, which I do believe that they do, I don't think it's just like Casper, the friendly ghosts coming in, and I don't believe it's like this. I do think that ghosts or this kind of things are because of, if it's a dead person, for example, I think it's because I don't think all dead people would become ghosts. I think it's really attached to like the energy of the person or the feelings specifically. Don't think, because energy is something that I believe doesn't die, specifically if you have people left here. So I do believe that it depends on how you were when you were living as well. And also I think maybe a lot of people are really scared of dying. So maybe there's something happening there. And yeah, I do definitely think it has something to do with certain energy. And there's like a frequency, and what did I want to say? Makes me think of it makes me think of Ghostbusters for some reason, but it's kind of like this whole plasma thing, like it's something that can move in the air, but that because we can't actually properly see it, but we can feel it. Therefore, it's real because we can feel it. Like Wi-Fi is real. We can't see it, but we use it and it's working. I had dead relatives, not just my relatives, but others' relatives come in my dreams as well. So I don't think it's necessarily the fact that you see a ghost when you're awake or when you're in a room moving books or making you frightened or cold as you walk in. I think it's also the whole thing of like, yeah,
No, I did. It's like, did I leave the window open? No, I don't think I did.
Well, that's a ghost. But yeah, I think like, I guess everyone, it's very rare. Well, I don't know. I haven't spoke to all the people in the world, obviously, but I think it's very rare where people say, I don't believe none of that exists. And people that would never been through any kind of like paranormal things. In Swedish, the word for a ghost is spöke, which means more of like a specter or a ghoul. So it's kind of cute, I think. It's like, it's a little bit cute. In Polish, it would be duch, which is a spirit, which is like a soul. So dusza is a soul, duch is a spirit, so that would be like a spirit. But then I think the Slavic traditions have a lot of that as well, intertwined in like old folklore. I wish I knew more about it. It's not just about ghosts, it's about like all sorts of things, phenomena they used to believe in, and a lot of people still do. So
do you
I'm
believe
torn.
in
Is it a
poltergeist?
ghoul? Is it a
Poltergeist? That is poltergeist. How you pronounce that? That
Poltergeist,
Yeah, poltergeist.
poltergeist. So that is another like a rabbit hole between all the paranormal situation, isn't it? Because it's I don't know a
It's
lot.
like a very
I don't know if you
particular.
can explain.
Yeah, it's a particular.
I think is when the spirit have the ability to interact with the matter and move objects and things like that. Is that the definition
I have
for
a
that?
good theory. Yeah, no, I have a good theory on that. I've read something about it or watched things. I can touch upon that a little bit afterwards. because that can be quite interesting. It's an interesting thing. As for me, I'm very open to what it is. So traditionally, like just for I would think, or I used to think, a ghost is supposed to be like having to do with a dead person, right? So if you're having all these ideas, or like, the movies about ghosts, it's usually, like somebody who has died and is appearing again in maybe even the same way that they died or whatever. So we have this idea of these apparitions that are hundreds of years old, right? So I've never seen apparitions like that. So I have no experience with it. What I can believe is that I think also like you said, Amelie, or some of you said it, this connection with emotion, and how, like, I would think that when somebody dies in a very traumatizing event, or in an event where there's a lot of emotion, that maybe some of that splits off, and that might be something that the living can pick up on and maybe translates in their mind or in their awareness as that person. Maybe, right? Because we have all these traditions and all these beliefs in afterlife, for example, right? Like a lot of traditions have this idea that once you die, you go somewhere. If you're just going into the faith, because science will say your body just decomposes and that's it, right? Some science. But for these traditions that you live on, then it's a little bit tricky to think that if somebody has passed on but still is here as well. Yeah, I can see that maybe happen, but I'm more into I lean more into the direction that it is like a memory of a person. Like when you shoot a film, when you shoot a movie of somebody, and then that goes in a loop. Not necessarily something that has its own agency, but I don't know. So I differentiate with all the names and the words that there are. Like for me, ghost is something that has to do something with somebody who's departed, or something that has departed. And then spirits and so on is something else for me. That can be whatever else. So I'm leaning into the direction that maybe it's like some sort of memory or emotion that we somehow pick up on, maybe. And for this whole tradition of mediumship and talking to ghosts or talking to people who have passed, I'm also leading more into a direction that I think that we tap into the pool, basically. So if the souls go back into the shared consciousness, and then maybe again, if we believe in rebirth, and maybe if rebirth exists, right, that a part of them or that goes back, but that we still have an access to the recording or to that soul or to the persona that soul was in a so-and-so life, and that maybe that is what we tap into if you believe in that kind of mediumship, right, where you contact things that you define as somebody who has passed. So I think it goes back in the pool and you access the pool, and doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't gone on, because it'd be very sad, right, if they never pass on. So that is one of my theories about that, like kind of a recording or something. But I don't know, because I think I also, and I don't know whether I'm making this up, right? Because in my, like I've had a phase, or also just because obviously I talk to, not obviously, but I talk to spirits and beings, and and I have had a phase where I was just trying to see whether one of the things that I can do or I'm supposed to do is like this idea of helping the deceased that haven't passed on pass on, because this is like one of these tropes or jobs or whatever that some people do. And I'm like, I don't know whether it's something that is a thing that actually is a thing, right? And so I would like try and contact whatever I define as ghosts, and I would see things and I would help them towards the other thing, but I have obviously no proof and I don't know the workings of it. I'm just I just did things, and it's like, okay, like I guess that's good. The energy went a better place and it's not stuck. It felt kind of like that, like maybe an energy that was like stuck and then got unstuck, but there's no way I can prove any of that. So I don't know. I was just like sitting on a bench in a graveyard and then nothing happened. I don't know. Yeah.
They didn't call back your interview for the job. They didn't call back.
No, they did not. Sometimes, there's things that you feel like there's something. And I love graveyards. I love them. They're
Me too.
special. Yeah, they're
Surprise,
really nice.
surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
I
Yeah.
also don't
So,
know
like,
whether
I
or
don't know.
not. I also don't know
Go ahead.
whether or not we need proof. Obviously, from a academic perspective, I suppose, yeah, proof is required, scientific method and whatnot. But with a lot of the things that we are involved in, sometimes have you ever heard of the saying "credendo vides," which is basically kind of translates to go on. Oh, do you
It's
want me to
something
say
with
it?
believing. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, you need to believe in order to see.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like kind of a principle that we live by in our spiritual journeys and practices. Like none of the things that we have experienced, none of the things that we have signed up for are stemming or are rooted in foundation of proof or scientific evidence. I will dare say, and maybe even argue, that it all stems from a need for belief or a need to believe, rather.
I mean, I'm unfortunately not very good in expressing this. There's a person that I've listened to on a podcast who's very good at that. But also this entire, like, science is just one of many arts. And the way that people nowadays believe that science is the max point of truth is quite modern, and it's not actually what science is supposed to what science is. Like this proof and evidence-based stuff is nowadays supposedly you need all evidence, otherwise it's not true.
Yeah.
And I cannot explain it correctly but there was a person, and I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe I can find it and drop in the comment or the section below afterwards, because they put it very, very nicely with all like the Greek philosophies and like the skeptic and people who are like more into like the logic. That's all different ways of seeing things, and not necessarily one is higher than the other. Yeah, I fail at explaining it because I just listened to it
No,
once
you
and I was like,
didn't. You didn't.
this is amazing. I cannot
No.
back it. So I have like this brain, because I'm extremely intuitive, but I'm also extremely intellectual. So I'm always like, I believe it, but also like that, but can I prove it to myself?
You're like Jekyll and Hyde, basically.
A little bit. Yeah. So I don't need proof, but I like to convince myself that certain things are more likely to be true or not. Like so I like to.
I think it's healthy to question things like that. I'll do it as well. And yeah, even if you believe in something, it's I think it's healthy to question it, and maybe
100%.
maybe you tap into something no one else has thought of, or something that works for you. So there's
I
nothing
guess
wrong with that.
also because we're talking about the scientific method and research and evidence and proof. But even if we take statistics, isn't it? Like I haven't looked at the statistics. I'm just going based on the people that I met in my life and so forth. The amount of people that will just in a random conversation or at a dinner table when you're catching up, the amount of people that will just tell you, "Oh yeah, I've experienced this. Yeah, I witnessed that. Yeah, I perceived this and I couldn't explain it." There's a heavy number of people, So just on statistics alone, there's some minor evidence, even just there, isn't it, to an extent?
Yeah, talking about the statistics says 30% of humanity believe in ghosts. So yeah,
That feels
30%
low.
in the humanity believe in ghosts. 1 in 3.
I figured it would be higher than that.
Well, 1 in 2 get
Because the
cancer.
70% is in denial.
Yeah, 1 in 2 get cancer, 1 in 3 believe in ghosts. I think that 30%, but it's a big number. You see, 1 in 3 believe that there is something there related to ghosts, so I think it has a great percentage, particularly scientifically talking about science. The scientific community, as I just explained, the scientists, the scientific physicians and so on, I think that is like the new religion. People always need to believe in something. So instead of believing in the spiritual, or, science is a product of us. So science, the only thing that he has created is for the past, 1700s or probably 2-3 centuries ago, is relatively a new science. It's still believing or demonstrating things. Like, for example, when you see in the quantum scientific world that is the observer change, the observe, the reality that we are experimenting is, or now they are believing and they determine that there are multiverses and situations like that. So we're making progress. We're catching up with the belief of ancestors of thousands of years ago, the aborigines, that they have a different dialect, or in a semantic, it was differently explained, but the scientific principle was there. So to me, I think they have not catch up with the ghost reality, because one of the explanations is a term they call sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is that we're still asleep, but we don't realize it. And it's like we get paralyzed in the middle of the sleep, so we can see hallucinations and we create realities and we create ghosts. Other explanation is the infrasound. So there's the environments that can distort perception. Infrasounds create vibrations that we perceive as humans as feelings of unrest and, visual glimpses and, like perceptions of some presence that they are there. And that is, they explain that as an infrasound, so a low vibration frequency that create these patterns. Others say that is carbon monoxide poisoning, that we hallucinate, therefore we're hallucinating forms. Or, as they say, the human brain, anyway, is wired to recognize patterns and to recognize faces and recognize human figures everywhere, even a piece
Jesus
of
in a
toast.
toast.
Yes.
Yes, Jesus
So
in a
yeah,
toast.
that's the
Famous.
typical explanation. They are more towards accepting that in a culturally social culture situation, or maybe a psychological situation, the presence of a ghost have a purpose, is to help the process of mourning or dealing with death, with unfinished business, with memory, and with very strong emotions that sometimes we cannot deal, like guilt or violence or love, because they are ghosts related to love as well, So they accept there is a purpose. They accept that culturally it helps the humanity and the community to mourn and to deal with emotions. That's like that psychologically, as individuals as well, we create this presence because there are unfinished business, and human minds, brains, they don't like unfinished business. So creating a presence of a ghost is a conclusion, but there is not proof that the ghost exists. Even if the scientific community dedicated to the paranormal, they have their own, like proof that what Emily was mentioning, the plasma and the energies and the fluctuations of vibrations and frequencies, they are there. So yes.
I was just about to say, I mean, because they use, for example, something like recording yourself, like a recorder. Because if you ever seen, surely you guys have seen these paranormal shows that's been around. The old British ones are great. They are just so funny. But they walk around with obviously they have cameras set and just to see if there's any kind of strange behavior here and there, or any thing moving as such. But then also they have recorders to record themselves, so they ask questions like, what is your name? And then it's quiet because they're recording it. And when they're playing it back many times, there's actually answers on the recording. Now, obviously, if you're thinking about TV shows, that can be quite easily done. But I feel like there's been so many people that have said that they tried to do it themselves. And there's things on the tapes, for example, that they have recorded voices when they've been alone. There was nobody around. And there was this man as well on YouTube. Don't think he does his videos anymore. He got like a lot of backlash probably, but he built this machine, this recording machine, and he basically went online and he was talking to spirits and ghosts through this machine, electronical, some kind of device that he built, and you could really hear. And I think a lot of people just did not believe in it. I don't know what happened to this man, but I'm kind of thinking, like, wouldn't that be enough? Do people actually need to have proof of seeing it with their own eyes, or would proof of hearing something would be proof enough? Don't know.
So can you think probably is the own psychic of the person that projects that as the observer of the in a quantum thing? If he is the observer, he can probably have a psychic, a mind so powerful who can manifest these kind of things. Can be an answer as well. We don't know, isn't it?
You mean the man that
Yes.
built the machine thing?
So
yeah, it could be. He's just very intuitive, and he turns on this machine as all like electrical with all these things. And he basically asks questions, or he asks to speak to a specific person, or he's been talking to a few celebrities as well. I think he's been talking to like Michael Jackson a few times as well. And you can hear in the noises from the machine and all of that. It's a bit crazy, but I just find it really interesting because, yeah, I don't know how it works. And I guess on TV or online or like this, you can always fake a lot of things. But this was also like before AI, so he was doing this before we had all of this stuff. I don't remember his name. It was called Huff. And yeah, just interesting things like that. But I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe if you really believe in something, you can manifest it yourself. I don't know. It's
A lot to reflect on.
Yes, it does leave you with more questions really than than answers.
Yeah, that's a haunted place needs a believer to be. It's like, like in the quantum situation, if a tree falls in the forest, there is create a noise, or need someone to hear it in order to be. So, because I don't think, I think it's like you need two to tango. You need the person who is the receiver, the person who experiences the presence of a ghost, and that energy that connects to that person. It's my belief that if something wants to communicate, they need someone here in this plane to communicate too. So I understand people in mediumship relative, the eagerness and the love and the connection can create, as Lynn was saying, that tap into that memory or that energy that's still there, and the medium can tap into that energy. But a haunted place, an abandoned house, or whatever happened, a stranger comes in, I can feel the presence, or I can feel before that I was asking you about poltergeists and things like that, So what is first, the egg or the chicken? What is the person who entered into that place predisposed to feel these energies and vibrations? Or this entity can be, in their own exist without the need of someone on this plane to relate to.
It's the observed and the observer, always.
Yeah, but how about, because sometimes there are people, they don't even think about ghosts, nothing like that. And let's say they buy this house, and nothing within them would be like, there might be ghosts in here. So they don't think about it at all. And then they start hearing things, seeing things.
But does that happen is the question.
Areas.
Yes.
Does it ever happen that people who really don't have any baggage go into a place and then stuff happens? That is like my question.
Or even worse, why destiny put them there? If that happens, even if they don't believe in that, why happened that encounter in the whole universe happened at that time, at that place, in the precise moment, and in the circumstances that happened? Was the predisposition of that person, if it was in the subconscious way that made it happen? Or there is really an independent entities that haunt places that really doesn't need a human presence to be there.
I have a theory about poltergeists, and I think it's a podcast that I've listened to ages ago. So I have my brain has no memory for sources. It's really good for the academics amongst us. But so that theory or whatever they were talking about for them, many theories out there, but this one I thought was really interesting because they were sciencing around the poltergeist phenomena. And apparently, like, according to them, first of all, again, poltergeist officially is known as when you have very physical apparitions. We wouldn't say that, but if stuff starts like banging in the walls or, the wardrobe doors go open, so something that is very clear, something changing, what's happening in your home usually. It seems to be always like in a house, right? Always in homes. So that is like the idea of a poltergeist. And it's believed traditionally that it is a very strong kind of a ghost phenomenon, like some sort of very strong ghost that's usually in the films and the movies. It's always evil. It wants the family out or kill the family, in Hollywood. And then often in the ghost stories, it would be like an evil spirit who, is trying to do bad by the people who are living there now because they're jealous or they want to keep the place for themselves or whatnot. And that is often something that turns really, really annoying, not just annoying, but like a really big degree of, like people cannot sleep, there's just a lot going on. It's really bad. And also, according to this person, they say that in what they've seen as poltergeists, is never something that stays in the house. They have recordings of like the families, if they move out, this phenomenon goes with them. So they started to think that it doesn't have to do with the place, but it has to do with the people. And their idea is a little bit like linked to what we said earlier, that we think that maybe ghosts have to do with feelings and emotions. And they had like psychological profiles on the family members. And there was always something with these families that have like poltergeist phenomena in their house. Apparently there was always something that they went through a big event or had just been going through a big event in their own life, and it was one or two people in the actual family causing the phenomena, not actually an outside being. So basically, it's many years ago I've listened to this or heard this, but so basically the idea is that say it's they've gone through a divorce or something, right? Let's say that. So, and then they have a lot of feelings and they have a lot of anxiety and a lot of maybe, distress and hate toward a person, whatnot. So they have like a cocktail of emotions. And they're maybe also very spiritually either aware or just very sensitive. And then that influences the world around them. So in a way, that sounds like if you're a person like that, you could be an amazing magician, like you could be a wizard if you're so strong in your emotions that you can make cupboards fly open and stuff. I mean, that is like telekinesis at its finest. If you could channel it, right? But apparently they cannot. So this is one theory. For them, it's connected to the people, not the actual house. And usually there's something traumatic happening. And I think actually was that they even then went to therapy or had some spiritual healing on the person themselves. And then the phenomena stopped or got less when the person got help. And it had nothing to do like exorcism or there's an evil spirit, we have to drive it out or nothing. It was connected to the person. Disclaimer or explanation. So while we were recording this episode were 2 occasions at the very least where a strange sound was picked up by Amelie's. We think it's Amelie's microphone. Luigi was blamed for it at first, by yours truly, because it was burning candles, and it sounded like candles burning. This sound did not get picked up by the recording platform we are using, but there was quite an interesting discussion arising from it. So we decided to keep that discussion in, as it was quite fitting to our ghost episode. So when you see us discussing weird things and throwing the blame of why there is a strange noise, that is because there was a strange noise, but it was apparently Amelie's, because later she will mute herself and the noise disappears. And interestingly enough, it happened at occasions, later at least at occasions, where ghost stories were told. And you know what? Just to continue with the conspiracy theories, I pulled a tarot card just for this weird sound thing. And what I got actually depicts the sound, to me anyway. the crackling of fire in the background. Spooky. Back to the podcast. Lucy, are you burning something up? Is your house burning?
I mean,
can
it's
hear.
candles. Oh, can you hear? Because I was
Can hear-
muted. Can you
Is it
still wait? I'll
me?
mute myself. Can you still
It's
hear
the
me now?
it's the ghost. It's
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, not now. Do you know what? When you were talking, I could hear, like, I can see myself that someone is talking in my microphone, but I was silent. No one was talking in my microphone. So I was just about to ask,
we're calling
did
the
anyone
ghosts in
hear
this.
me saying something? Because I wasn't. It was just indicating that I was talking, but I wasn't.
Yeah, this episode
Now
is
it's gone.
this episode is haunted. It's great. I love it. It's
is.
like
But it kind
we're
of
just talking.
proves your point, though, because you were saying that it's not necessarily about an external energy, but the people
It's
that
about
are.
us.
Yeah, and I think because we've been
And
engaged
we're
in this kind of
charged with
conversation.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have charged spirits with us anyway all the time. So if they want to come out, they're just gonna
but
do it.
talking about channeling a spirit, it has been since the beginning of history. Because the first ghost in history, registered in history, was the earliest. It was in the ancient Mesopotamia. And it's called the Epic of Gilgamesh, around 2100 BCE. And it's one of the oldest texts in existence that the dead are not at peace. As I said, we go back to, I don't know if the guilt that the humans feel that an injustice has committed to the person who died, or is the spirit of the dead who needs to be arrested. So the story says that the spirit of Enkidu, who was the best friend of Gilgamesh, returned from the underworld and described that his existence was awful, that they were in solitude, in darkness, eating dust and mold water. His friend Gilgamesh went to the priest and they created a beautiful little ritual. They create like a clay figure, to put next to the Enkidu in order to give him a companion to help him to go in peace. And he went in peace. Then the story comes with the thing that is the create a proper burial rituals and being remembered by the living. And, so it's like taking care of the disease, and they give it feelings and emotions, and how, we can perpetuate the happiness and peace if we take care of them. over 4,000 years ago, we still take care of the emotions and the feelings of the departed. And I found that it was beautiful. In Greece and Rome as well, they have another perception of the dealing with ghosts. It was more like a problem to solve, nearly logical, So there is a philosopher that it was Pliny the Younger, who talking about haunted houses, moving to a haunted house where no one wanted to live because people could hear chain spirits appear. And so instead of running, a philosopher followed it, and he realized that there were human remains in the property. As soon as he properly buried, ghosts disappeared. So he stayed in the house. So yes, it was like another approach, how to resolve an issue, a problem that's probably what we have now. And for that, we have the paranormal and so on, is to resolve the problem of ghosts. For example, the Romans created a ritual like Lemuria. I found that very funny because they threw beans at midnight on the back, like feeding the ghosts to appease the spirits. So another beautiful little ritual that give like a response or solve a problem about ghosts. In Christianity, we have the Holy Ghost, but that is in the King James Bible, donde appears the name of Holy Ghost. But they make a very big difference because it's not a wandering soul. Is here the ghost means everything, the divine energy. So again, we go back to the presence of energies and divinity, and the Holy Ghost is the biggest of all the spirits anyway. But medieval Christianity, they still believe in human ghosts, especially souls in the purgatory. So appearing in specific places, asking for people to pray for them is a gate that need to resolve the well-being of the departed. However, in China, the ghosts have more like a social responsibility connotation. And they create a fabulous, beautiful festival that is called the Hungry Ghost Festival. And this Hungry Ghost Festival is on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, so between August and September in each year, and where the gates of the underworld open. It reminds me a lot of the Day of the Dead in Mexico as well, where the veil, the two worlds get thinner and thinner, so the ghosts can come into this reality. So they are in the Hungry Ghost Festival. There are two different spirits. One is the ancestor that return peacefully, that you honor, that you celebrate, that you give offerings. And there are the neglected and forgotten or greedy souls that is called the Hungry Ghost. So some of the tradition is you have washed clothes, don't dry it outside because the ghost can steal them and to get inside to your house. So you wash clothes that day, put it to dry inside your house. But in the festival, people that food offerings, they burning paper money, and they do public performance and singing and, all this entertainment. And it's very funny because the front row has to be empty. That is the front row for the spirits. And ghosts here are not just for fear. It's a social contract between the living and the dead. It's honoring the dead. It's like in Japan, the ghost is called Yurei, more related to deeply emotional situation. And we have seen that in the Japanese movies like You Like, Amelie, and that is generally the Yurei are these pale figures with very long black hair with the white clothing.
Ringo.
Yes, that's
There's
it,
many,
the
but
Yurei.
there's many. So there's a very, very rich culture in Japan about ghosts and
Yes.
spirits, Yure, and there's also a parade of ghosts in Japan, which they also celebrate. And not all of them have the long black hair, but they have very, very distinct features. Some of them well-known ones do.
But
I mean,
there
it
is
sounds-
this festival.
It's
There's
different.
festival in Japan called the Obon. That's again in August.
Yeah, Obon.
At the families welcome ancestral spirits home with lanterns and offerings and the food. Again, it's that family welcome, your loved ones and ancestors that they found so beautiful. So, but there are darker stories as well in Japan. That is the story of the Okiku, that she was a servant that was wrongfully accused and they threw her in a well, and the spirit
She broke a
remains
plate.
bound to the well
think-
where she died. Yeah. And people see her in the evening washing plates, coming out of the well and watch and make her chores, And so it's more like emotions that never resolve. It's like more going like inside of yourself to resolve the issues more than the scary ghosts that we have.
I think Luigi have been sitting on a question for a very long time now.
Yeah, Luigi, what did you want to say?
I wanted to say two things. The first thing was just because I wanted to get it out of my system. The second thing was, when you were discussing, Adriana, earlier on, this whole thing about the veil as well, which is a very beautiful concept. How do you guys feel? How do you girls feel? How do you ghosts feel? Are we perhaps perceived as ghosts from the beings that are on the other side of the veil? You know what I mean? Like twisted, not twisted, but reflected reality. So we are somehow channeling beings or forces from another realm, another place in the universe, but maybe it's happening the same, but vice versa. Like us doing the most random thing, like opening the sink, letting the water out. In another place in the universe, in another reality, somebody's being like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. When you said as above, as so below, very early on in the episode, and you alluded a little bit to something there, I also had this thought that, as a possibility that, I mean, there's theories of like mirror worlds and all that, right? Which is, again, a completely an extra
down.
episode, the upside down. So, yeah, maybe we are just another version of, that. But this is I think this is something else like we can probably discuss for like an hour or so with other worlds and all that. It's very interesting.
To be continued.
Yeah. Yeah. But to kind of wind back to when we all came with our words and definitions of ghosts, because as a linguist, I just had to dig a bit into that. So for the languages that I know, there's, similar to all of you guys' languages, of course, there's different definitions and words. But for the English, because we have so many different words that we like throwing around here, like ghosts and spirits and apparitions and phantoms and whatnot, and specters and
Ghouls.
Ghouls, yeah, ghouls are a bit more physical, I think. But per definition, ghosts is the definition that is the soul of a dead person per dictionary. A
Well,
phantom,
then that's right. Then we can just
that's it.
quit
That's
now,
what
and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, that's
Phantom.
There's no need to go any further.
No, phantom is something that is apparent to the senses, but not something that has a substance. So it's a bit broader. It can also be something that has to do with like something dreadful as well, But anyway, something that's apparent to the senses, but not any substance. An apparition is something that you see, something that you cannot explain, an unexplained sight, for example, something come out. Yeah. And then a spirit is, per definition, a supernatural being or essence. Yeah. So we have words for reasons, right? To define stuff. And then I did not look up specter, actually. So I failed on that one. But they're similar. Like, for example, also in German, the most common one is to say Geist, which is basically ghost, right? And then there's also Gespenst, which is a bit more like something spooky. A Geist can be anything. And there's also a philosophical definition of Geist, like the spirit here, sort of, is also called Geist. Or Zeitgeist is like a word that people know, Zeitgeist, which is not the ghost of the time, right? It's just like the spirit of an era. And then there's also like phantom, which is the same as phantom or phantasm. So stuff like that. Luigi, you wanted to say something?
I looked up actually specter earlier on, and I think it's connected to the word spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of the paranormal, I suppose, it refers to an entity that is likely to haunt.
Okay.
And
So I guess yes. So I guess
haunting ghost.
it distinguishes itself from the other words in terms of its function.
Exciting. I like words. I love words. Are amazing. Great. Well, do you guys have any, let's say, personal ghost stories? Or if somebody told you a personal ghost story, like something that somebody has witnessed, if anybody has a story to share, if you can just share one story that you remember. Adriana is nodding her head.
Yes.
Do you have a ghost story to share?
Well, I have several ones, even since I was a child.
Let's start with one. Let's go with one.
Yes.
Pick the most scary one.
Yes. I always have been extremely sensitive to energies and to these presence and so on, but I don't like them. I don't feel comfortable. I had been like spiritual attacks, my life has turned very badly. So then when I was studying the spiritual healing and the energy healing, is a section that you have like exorcise people of taking like negativities from people. I saw like a darkness figure there, and then I felt it came in. Even my teachers and everyone has like 5 people treating me in order to take that entity out of me. So to me, it has been like a relationship of get off for me, since I was a child. So I have experiences that once I was in uni and they were playing with a Ouija, and it was Good Friday. And God, there was like a spirit, and it came inside of myself. I couldn't get rid of that. I had to go to a lady that was a special medium and so on who told me you have because I started having like suicidal thoughts, very strange and weird things happened. I had to stop driving my car because I wanted to kill myself and so on. So this lady gave me the name and where this person was buried and so on. It was someone who commit suicide. And she has to do a lot of rituals and things like that to take them out of me. And when I was doing the course, as I say, the spiritual healing, and there was a section of mediumship that we had to attend. And I was seeing the spirits even before people, they were saying, oh, the spirit here, or blah, 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 blah. But I'm not happy with that. Here I received several attacks in the middle of the night. I saw a lot of them. Even I felt the presence sitting on my bed and so on. And I had to call Michael Archangel and so on. And they would say, do nothing and so on. Don't get involved in this anymore. And all these subside and it got resolved when I became a Reiki master. And I chill myself. My vibration raised, my life changed, all a better luck, or better, living. I started improving my quality of life since I refused to be a medium or refuse anything to do with these entities or the spirits. So yes, that is my personal experience. Do I believe in them? I don't think they need me to believe in them or not. I have been tested, has been witnessed, I have been, feeling presence inside of myself that is not me, several times. So therefore, I prefer not to work with them at all. So I don't do any mediumship. When I treat people, I feel the presence, I feel the situation, I feel, as I said to you recently, have a lady who is from Palestine, and her grandmother was killed by sniper Israeli soldier, and I saw it. I saw it, and I felt the presence, and I say, your grandmother's here. I say, it's very weird, but I see, so very sorry, but she's dead, and I feel that she was killed, a bullet. So she started crying and said to me, yes, and she told me this is the situation in Palestine with her grandmother. But I use that more to heal the person, to help them to release that energy, that memory they have, probably attachments, more than treating or talking directly to spirits. And that's my personal experience.
What about you, Amelie?
I think my first, when you were kids and you have friends and you go into a dark bathroom and look in the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times. We used to do that quite often. And a few times I did see something, but then I don't know, I was quite young and it was fun. So I'm not really sure if it was my imagination or if it actually happened. But I remember once it was just me and my friend, and I when you just there is a moment when everything is just really quiet, and then I could feel something brushing over my hair, and I could see it in the mirror, my hair just went like this, and I was like, did you just touch me? And she was like, how could I? Because I was up standing here, and that was the last time I ever did that. I thought that was really freaky. I know it's really silly. One should not really play around like that. But what do you do when you're bored as a kid, right?
You gotta tempt the
Otherwise, I
spirits.
think I've spent a lot of time, like I said before, in cemeteries. I don't really have any specific stories, but I have seen presences. When you're in a cemetery in the middle of the night. This is the thing. I don't know if it's in your mind or not, but I wasn't there ghost watching. I was just there because it was me and my friends, we just like to hang out. And it was not so far away from my house either. Sometimes we just went into cemeteries because it was nice and peaceful. Ever so often you did see that kind of shadowy thing, bit like Casper, but not so solid like Casper. It's just it's really hard to explain because you doubt yourself because it's not something that you can explain. I don't know if I think that would be classed as ghosts as well. When I had people that I knew or like relatives, like family that passed, I had them visiting me in my dreams as well, which is not as weird because it's a dream, so it's easier to digest it as, "Oh, yeah, this happened. Okay." I do. I'm 100% sure that my grandma, she's like my guardian angel kind of, and I do feel her presence every now once in a while. But I don't know if that has something to do with like her being a ghost or if it's just emotion that I'm projecting that I felt in certain particular like
Well, she's
times.
your ancestor spirit, who's
Yeah, so
watching
I
over you.
guess she's a
Sure.
spirit, duch, as we said, so yeah, she's the soul. She's my soul grandma. Yeah.
What about you, Luigi? With your
I actually,
candlelight.
despite my belief, actually have not, apart from the connection that I made with whoever was beyond the veil guiding my readings, I have never had like a Ghostbuster, Poltergeist, Casper, the Friendly Ghost, or Ghost 1990, one of the best ones out there, isn't it? Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg. But I never had one of those encounters. I wanted to. I know people might be getting out there like, how dare you wishing for something like that? But I always wanted to interact in that regard because I have a friend who's incredibly psychic and she interacts similar to you, Adriana. She interacts on a daily basis almost. And I've always wanted to interact on that level. But no, I never experienced it. I only experienced what I tend to experience during a channeling and during readings. The only other thing that gets close to it, as you may know, I worked in quite a lot of West End theatres in London as front of house. And in the London Colosseum, one of the biggest theatres that we have in London, and in the Lyceum, where I was based for quite some time, in the balcony for the London Colosseum and the Grand Circle for the Lyceum, particularly the Grand Circle in the Lyceum, there is this known fact that there's a ghost out up there. And there's people that when they leave the theater, when the theater is empty and they cross the stage to get to the stage door by the back, and they glance at the Grand Circle. There's a bunch of people that have worked there in the past and still work there now. They keep saying, "I've seen something, and there's something up there." And I think at the London Colosseum in the balcony, there's always been it's tricky because there's a lot of lights being worked during a show and a performance, but I can be certain that there's a shadow shifting around. In the balcony of the London Colosseum for many performances. Nothing harmful, nothing scary, but I just see her. I guess I perceive it as a her, but I just see her and she just bounces back and forth and around, and she crosses the ceiling and she comes through the rows at the front, the rows at the back. So that's as much as I witnessed. And
She's behind
once
you.
I know, like,
She's behind you now.
coming to get me. And once we had a gathering here at our house here, and one of our guests, we were all in the living room having a chit chat. One of our guests came to the kitchen where I am right now to collect a glass of water or maybe some more to eat, and they came back petrified because they were like, we were like, "Are you okay?" And they were like, "There's something in the kitchen." What do you mean, like a mouse? Because I put traps and
It's
we
a
tried to
raccoon.
get them out, and it was like, no, there's something in the kitchen, and they were not able to phrase, like, they didn't give us much more information other than there's a presence in there. And I'm like, I mean, I never experienced the presence, but it makes sense because of the amount of readings that I do here and the amount of ritual. Maybe I let something in. He never gave me that effect, that effect of not panic, but they were like in shock. They were like, there's something in there. And they've come to the house before, so that
Interesting.
was the first time that they came back. Maybe because they came here alone, who knows? But it was the first time that they came out and went in disbelief, almost like, "Oh, please come with me to the kitchen. I don't want to go in there by myself." So that was my portion of the story.
It's interesting you mentioned the theaters because that made me remember the time when I was working at Liberty. And Liberty is like an old like a department shop, like super expensive department shop. But the whole
It's
thing with
beautiful.
that shop, It's really beautiful. Basically, what that shop, the shop is made out of 2 battleships. So all the timber and like it's basically built with 2 battleships. And there's just so many different stories going on. And in the room that I used to work with, one day I just like you said, there was a shadow in the corner, which really freaked me out. And then from time to time, I could just feel this like coldness sometimes. And at first I thought it must be the window because it's really old and the windows are quite old. But it was just not like all the time. If there is a draft, if you stand there, it's normally like all the time, but it was just randomly coming in and out. And I kept seeing her from time to time. And after a while, it just didn't scare me at all. So I used to come in and just say hello to her. For a while, I just like I made it a thing. I'm like, hello, I'll be with you today. And then everything was fine. But it kind of freaked me out in the beginning because there's a lot of like strange corridors and things there as well. And I would not like to spend the night there, that's for sure.
I'm
So,
one of those weird people who would like to spend the night in things that are said to be haunted just to see if something happened to me.
if
Yes.
you
But
come to the
I
UK,
haven't.
if you come to the UK, we should all go to Rye and spend a night in the Mermaid Inn. It's like a really
Oh,
old hotel and is one of the most haunted hotels in the UK.
I'll sign me up. I will do it.
Same. It's a date.
Not me.
It's a date. No, Adriana can skip it.
Yes.
It's a date. While you were talking, I remembered another thing a thing that actually happened to me, because when we started this episode, I was just thinking of somebody else's ghost story that was told to me that I can replicate really poorly, but it's like a proper ghost story. So I really liked it. But then while you were talking, I also remembered some things, weird stuff that has happened to me personally. And so there was this instance when I was maybe 16, 17 years old, and I stayed in Norway as an exchange student in this house of a really nice family, and I was in the room of one of the daughters who had moved out. A really nice room, and like in the roof, it had like a kind of a roof thing, and there were 2 weird things that happened there. One, there was no bed, like I just had a mattress there. And I slept on the ground, and I woke up in the middle of the night because the fire alarm in my room was going. And like in Norway, like the fire alarms, these things on the wall, they are freaking loud. Like if your neighbor's fire alarm, like your, wall-to-wall neighbor, if that fire alarm goes off, you're like up in bed like this. It's really loud. It's really annoying, So the fire alarm woke me up like with a start. I was just like, what's happening? It's like, pew, 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 and there was no smoke. There was nothing in my room. But I was like, just out of sleep, the only thing that I could think of was, shit, everybody's gonna wake up. I need to take the alarm off. So I think I don't remember. I think I tried to like grab it and just open it or something and like switch it off. That was like my first thought. I didn't think of like smoke because there was none. And then it went off. And then I thought and then I was panicking because I think I was like, maybe I did something wrong. I don't know, in my sleep. I don't know. I was thinking like everybody in the house must have woken up. There was like a father, there were 2 kids or like teenagers my age. It's like everybody must have woken up. They must be coming running and in a panic. And I was just like, just put it away. And somehow I fell asleep again. And then I woke up and I was like, nobody mentioned anything. And I was like super shy at that point. So I wouldn't like go out of my way to be like, to ask, hey, did you hear the fire alarm? I didn't. I just felt like really weird about it. And I also have no memory of whether I actually put it back on or what happened. But it was so bang, I was like, okay, this was one instance. And then it was really fucking, the second instance was in the same room and had also to do with sound. In that time of my life, I was meditating a lot. So this was before I went into anything very spiritual, magical. I was just in the I want to believe, and I was a pagan. I was all that, but I was not working with entities or anything. But I was practicing meditation often. And this was, I think, I'm not sure whether I was meditating or whether I was just writing something, but I was in the middle of the room and there was like a radio stereo thing where I had like a CD playing. And I think it was an Aerosmith CD. It was an Aerosmith CD that I'd bought. I don't remember the album, but it's the red one with the white. And that was playing at a normal level. And I was like 3 meters away from it and doing something. And then suddenly the volume went up like to max. And I was also, again, I was like, fuck, everybody's going to hear and it's going to be, my first thought. I was like, and I just ran and I turned it back down and my heart was going and I was sweating, but not because I thought, my first thought was like, shit, people are going to know. And then I'm like, fuck, this is creepy. Also, we having the sound again in the microphone when I'm talking about creepy. I hear the sound again. But anyway, those were the two sound things that I've experienced in the same room.
I don't want to overanalyze it, but I find it very I do hear the sound now. I don't know where it's coming from, but
It must be coming from me. What sound is it? Because I can see that I'm talking again, but I'm not talking.
exactly.
It's like it's like as if somebody had like a candle under the microphone or something, or some
I can't hear it myself because
No, it's not. It's
I don't have.
Not anymore. Not
Yeah,
anymore.
it's gone.
No, stop. It's
Because
stopped,
it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I can't see anyone talking now. But before I did, when you said that you can hear something, I can see my box talking, and I did not talk. That's
your
what
granny.
I'm saying. It could be.
grandmother.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, she's saying hello.
But yeah, I didn't want to overanalyze it, but I find it very interesting that both of your what's the word? Paranormal circumstances or episodes were circulating around. Oh, I don't want anybody to hear it.
Yeah.
And almost as if the ghosts or the spirits involved, they wanted you to be heard, to be seen, to be coming out. I just found that fascinating.
Yeah, looking back at it, but then, but when I was like at that age, because I wanted stuff to happen because I was interested in it. But then when it happened, I'm like, okay, and what do I do now? I was like, hello, I was like, what do you want to say? And then nothing, and I couldn't follow up with it. So yeah, but really cool things that happened within the span of like half a year or something in the same place. So there was something. I feel there was something there. And then a thing that happened very recently, not to me, but I was there. And that happened in Denmark. And there were two separate occasions, but it's the same, we believe, or they believe is the same thing. So in Denmark, I'm going to this lovely place and where we're doing light practice and other like indoors magical practices, or we've also had drum workshops and stuff. So it's at Ingborg, if you want to look it up. She's doing a lot of great workshops, and they have their own like Danish farm. So out there in the garden, there's like this little sun house, we call it, where we have a little like a circle, and we could do rituals there. And I believe was this last year, October, if I can remember correctly. But we were doing like a side thing that is a type of magical oracle practice where you use your voice and you sing, and I can talk about it in an episode at some point. But we were doing some exercises, and then it was after, I think, I have this, correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody here was there, so nobody can correct me, so I'm just going to tell it as I remember right now. I think it was after our big ritual, because we don't use our phones during, obviously. And then one of my friends there, she took pictures because there was a beautiful picture of the full moon and stuff. So she took pictures outside. And then afterwards, when he came back in, she showed her friend first, but then she came to me as well. And she's like, look at this. So she had taken 2 or 3 pictures of the same space, and it was just now the sound is back, Amelie, but anyway, spooky stuff.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm gonna mute myself just in case if it's ghosts. Like, don't talk. Jeez.
Yeah, talk. Oh, they're just like, this is important, this is important. So listen up.
When I muted myself, it disappeared.
Yeah, it did. Interesting. Picking up something on your side, Amelie. Okay. So she was showing me a picture, and then she'd taken the same space, and it was just her taking a picture from like outside the hut. So you just see like the wall of like the little sun house and a little tree, something ground. Like there was nothing particular there, just like that, and there was nothing. And then 2 or 3 seconds later, she took the same picture. You see it on the phone when you take like the same picture, but then there was a shape, like a black shape, and it was in the shape of a person. Like with a head and with like a body. And, we zoomed in, we zoomed out, we looked at it, everybody got goosebumps. I was like, okay, this is weird. And, I'm, it's like technical person also. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, if you move it too fast, but she said she held it still and there was nobody there. So none of the people who were there were actually in the area. I think there was somebody like to the side somewhere, but nobody was in the picture. And it was within like just a few seconds. So that was like, okay, there's something there. And also the face play, like it was all black, but in where the head was, it seemed, again, we tried to see faces, but that was not completely black. That looked like there was some sort of pattern in there that could be a face. And then we talked about this, and then they talked with the people there, and then they came to some sort of a conclusion idea that there was a person that they know who died, who looks kind of like that with the body shape and everything. So they were like, they felt like they had pinpointed it. But either way, it was kind of creepy. And then last time I was back there, it happened, or they say it happened again. Like in this one, I'm a bit more skeptic because this time they took pictures while we were actually doing something in the actual house there, like in the little sun house. And we were doing like a side when we were like kind of moving and dancing and stuff, or moving around in a circle. And there was one picture where you can kind of see. So it was dark, right? So even when you take pictures, so they had like this little, blur, like when you have like a long exposure, right? So that was not sharp because it was at night. So now it was like a little bit of a blur. But there were some pictures and they like identify. So this person's here and this person was there. This person was there. And then there was one picture where there was this black shape person again between two people, like two of us. And between the two people from our group, there was nobody from our group, but there was this black shape again. And there I was like, but maybe it's like just something leaning at the wall behind or something. So, but it's the same place again and the same thing. And it's like, it's, it was very interesting. Yeah, I was like, that's quite interesting. So that's what happened to me personally, but not like ghost story because it wasn't really ghost. It was just something. Apparitions, I guess. But I do have a ghost story and I'm going to tell this badly because this is like third degree hearing it or something. So as I remember, it was a friend of me telling it and she had it from her friend. It happened to her friend, I think. And as far as I remember it is that they had moved, they just moved into a new house somewhere in the countryside in Norway. Family, like mother and children, and I think a father and I think a grandmother lived with them, and they'd moved into the house. And there was something about that the children, they might be like 7 or 5 or both, like young kids. They started to be like, they were young kids, so they usually like to stay up late and, normally and be like, no, like one more thing, like I want to stay up, blah, 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 in the kitchen area. But in this house, they started to be like, more like, no, I want to go into bed. I don't want to be here. And then the grown-ups are like, well, why? What's going on? It was like unusual behavior for them. And then they would say that, no, but there's like a man looking through the window and I don't like him looking at me. And I was like, there's nobody, like maybe a neighbor, so they would like look and they didn't see. And this happened several times. And the children were like, no, we don't want to be here because there's always this man and he's coming and he's looking at us through the window. And I no, can't be. So there was nothing. And then at some point, I think because the children had gone outside or something, and then they asked again, but what kind of man is it? And then the youngest child, so I think maybe 5 or something, maybe even younger, I don't remember. But then the youngest child was like, yeah, no, I see him outside at the campfire, and he sits there sometimes with his friends at the campfire, but there's no campfire in our garden. Honey, like, what are you talking about? There are no people in our garden. But no, I see him quite often. He has a campfire there and he talks to his friends. But I don't really like it, so I'm just leaving. But it didn't seem like harmful. It's just like the child didn't want to be there, but it wasn't like threatening or anything. So there's like, okay, this is very, very strange. There's no men and no campfire. And then they also had friends and they cleansed the house with sage and whatnot. They did all that. And then they researched and then they found out that this area where the house was built used to be a battle site and there were soldiers stationed there. And I think that child even described that they had helmets and stuff and there were soldiers stationed there and had like their tents up and that was in the place there. And apparently they were still there.
So it was an imprint. an imprint in the location,
Yeah, it
geographical
seemed to be a bit
imprint.
yeah. It seems to be like this kind of echo. So that's and that's yeah. So I wanted the blinds, and let's not have the men look at us, please. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I do find that children do, because like it's very common that children see things that adults don't, and they're very perceptive, I guess,
Imaginary
in
friends. Do
such
you believe
way.
imaginary friends?
That's also a thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's also have a
yeah.
complete episode on imaginary friends. It's on the list.
That's a completely different
It's
episode.
on the list.
Yes, that 100%. That's something that we will talk about. But I just feel like children, because children are not brainwashed like we are, well, like adults are, thinking like, oh, this can't be real, this is not true. They just say whatever they see. So
Yeah.
they,
Or whatever
if
they know. Yeah.
Yeah, if they see someone by a campfire outside, then they're like, well, the man sits
Obviously,
there.
there's campfire.
It's just exactly.
Yeah.
It's
I
just really
truly believe
interesting.
in the imprints of location of objects, even when you can touch an object, even with our tarot cards, they get an energy. You feel the vibration of the cards. So yes, I think it's very, very possible that,
Ooh,
the places get an imprint of the energy that what happened there. Yeah.
you said tarot cards.
Yeah, speaking of which, as always, we have our little tradition with pulling a tarot card in secret in the beginning of the show and revealing it at the end. And this time, Luigi pulled the card. He's
What do we think
smiling
it
to
is?
himself. What do we think it is? Do you feel like it has to do with what we're talking about somehow?
I
I
do,
think
but
that has to be a major arcana.
I wish it's not.
Is it?
It can be connected to a major, and I think it has to do with what we've been discussing.
Is it a swords?
Okay.
Is it swords?
No.
No,
No.
I think it's
Shall
water.
I just reveal it? It's water. It's cups.
Yeah.
Well,
Of course, it's water.
Yes.
Is it the 5 or the 8? Oh, no,
the
it's
King
the
of
Yes.
Queen.
Cups.
King. Oh,
King
wow.
of Cups.
I pulled
Interesting.
him. Oh yeah, I also pulled him
So
today.
what is your definition?
Well, I think it's very relevant because there is that connection to the Scorpio energy, which I was expecting the Death card to show up somehow, and I think it did show up, but in the guise of the King of Cups. Through its Scorpio energy, I suppose. But also
Why
we were
Scorpio?
talking. Because it's connected to the Scorpio astrological sign through the astrological correspondence of the King of Cups is the sign of Scorpio.
Yes, but why is Scorpion energy to relate it to today?
Because I guess like in relation to the major arcana that represents it, it's represented by the Death card. And I figure that because of our discussion of ghosts and entity, the Death card energy was a kind of around us.
Okay.
But also Scorpio, I guess, is a sign as well.
Yeah,
Deals and
Scorpio.
handles.
Yeah.
Metamorphosis, transcending the realm beyond, except there's aspects of its house, the 8th house, also related to death itself and the passing and the inheritance aspects of life, I suppose. Also, I remember that we talked quite a few times about how everything that we've been discussing, ghosts and spirits, like how much of it is the manifestation of us, our intentions or our feelings or even our fears being manifested. And I
the
guess like in that
emotions,
regard,
right?
exactly. And
Yeah,
I guess in
we're
that
talking
regard,
about
the King of
emotions
Cups,
so much.
definitely. And in that regard, I suppose the King of Cups would be the manifester of that emotional realm, giving it shape.
I'm gonna call him the Ghost King maybe from now on if I remember, because that makes so much like with the
like it.
Scorpio energy and like Scorpio being so much in the other realm already with like all this spiritual death, love and sex, death and
Yeah.
power, Scorpio. But then with the kings being like the swords. Or the air, rather, like the air element is their main thing, and then the King of Cups combining the air with the water, with this intuition. I feel this is very much. This seems like it's this intellectual thing, or like just air being the medium where ghosts would appear or apparitions would appear if you do, or if there's this cold we feel in the air, or just the shadows. It's very airy, right?
And I think
with
we don't
the
have
emotions,
to identify.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have to identify the King of Cups with any of us in particular, but as I was reflecting on our conversation, it kind of reminded me of how you described your own experience, Lynn. You know, like the whole I'm open, it could be anything, but I'm also very much like interrogative. So let me think about this. It kind of
Yes,
reminds
true.
me of
That's
that
me.
dynamic.
That's
Like the
right. That's
King of
kind of
Cups
how it
is
I would
Lynn.
say
started.
that
It all.
it's like
Yeah.
having control of the emotional aspect and, like have the reasoning and the intellectual ability to use the intuition to interpret things of the spiritual realm. So yes, yes, I can see it now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It fits very well to the episode. Yeah,
It's pretty
it's quite
perfect,
nice.
actually.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite perfect actually. Was this the
Yeah, and the
second time we had a
Kings,
court card? I think so.
maybe. I'm
We
losing
had the
track.
Queen of Wands. Yeah, we had the Queen of Wands at some point in one of the first episodes with the Queen of Wands, not with the King of Cups. I think it's the second
We
time
should do
we had
like a
court card.
bingo. When you get all
Yeah.
of them, you win a prize.
New idea. I'm gonna make a file.
Tarot bingo.
We're gonna make a bingo. Awesome.
But I guess all the kings, they connect to the higher self as well. So in a way,
Yes.
it's in conversation with all this discussion about beyond the veil, presences, and the effect they have on our lives, the effect that we have over their spiritual experience in this realm, I suppose.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for another lovely session about ghosts, apparitions, phantoms, and more. If you like this episode, just leave us a like. We appreciate it. Drop us a comment. Don't feel shy. Subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. We upload a new episode every Thursday for the Voices of the Occultinarium. And our little side project, Amelin's Corner of Chaos, is uploaded every second moon day of the week, where we're talking a bit more random things that come to mind, but there's usually a little bit of a chaotic thread weaving through it, wouldn't you say, Amelie? So, yeah, I look forward to that. And again, if you'd like to support our work, you can buy us a coffee. We'll split the coffee between the four of us. Thanks for listening, guys. And
Ghosts. And the ghosts
see
that were
you in the
present
next.
tonight.
And the ghosts.
And the ghosts that were talking
and
into
the
my
ghosts.
microphone.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, everybody who was participating, even the ones we didn't see. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Night.
Good night.
We are the voices of the Occultinarium. Welcome to the rabbit holes.